What happens when silence becomes the loudest voice in the room? How long can dignity wait before it breaks? What would you do if the world stared at your skin before your eyes? The lobby of Grayson Global gleams like a temple of pride. Marble floors, glass ceilings, and faces that never look down. Yet, there he stands, pushing his mop as laughter ripples from men in suits who've forgotten what work smells like. Every motion is measured, every breath quiet. But behind those calm hands lies a storm. Words are thrown like stones. Jokes about dreamless lives, low jobs, and wasted potential. He keeps wiping the same spot, not because it's dirty, but because it's safer than looking up. The billionaire's voice cuts through the air. Sharp, amused, cruel, while others pretend not to hear. But beneath the silence, something ancient stirs. The weight of legacy, of a name once carved into this building's foundation, now wiped away by time or greed. The sound of the billionaire's laughter fades, but its echo lingers like smoke in Ely's chest. He wipes the same tile again and again, tracing the spot where pride fell. People move around him, heels clicking, phones ringing, voices humming with self-importance. He doesn't speak. Silence is his armor, polished and patient. Beneath that calm, a memory stirs. His father's voice telling him that respect is not handed down by titles, but earned through how one stands when no one applauds. Jonathan strides away, unaware that the man he humiliated has walked these halls before him as a child, holding his father's hand, staring up at the same ceilings that now reflect his pain. A faint tremor runs through Eli's breath, but it hardens into stillness. Humility, he reminds himself, is not weakness. It's the quiet before history remembers your name. Outside the building, the wind carries fragments of city life. Car horns, conversations, and the scent of roasted coffee from the corner cafe. Eli stands alone beside the employee entrance, leaning on his mop handle as if it were a staff of patience. The sting of humiliation clings to him like dust, but beneath it, something older breathes. Resolve. He remembers the way his father's hands moved when teaching him how to clean with purpose, not shame. Every floor tells a story. The voice echoes in his head. Make sure yours shines with truth. He looks at the reflection in the glass door and sees not a janitor but a man between two worlds. One that forgets where it came from, and one that refuses to forget. Inside, power struts. Outside, legacy waits. Inside the executive floor, Jonathan Pierce paces before the windows that stretch across the city's skyline. His mind hums with numbers, profit and control, the intoxicating rhythm of success. He recalls the look in Eli's eyes, that unspoken calm, and it unsettles him for reasons he can't name. People like that should be grateful, he mutters to himself, pouring a glass of whiskey before noon. To him, dignity is currency, something owned, not lived. Yet even as he sips, the glass trembles slightly in his hand. Somewhere deep inside, the human part of him flickers and fades, replaced by the chill of arrogance. Outside his office door, Maya pauses with files pressed against her chest, hearing his laughter again. The world runs on power, but power built on mockery cracks from within. The janitor's closet hums softly with the scent of lemon polish and old memories. Eli sits on a small stool, resting his elbows on his knees, staring at the folded rag in his hands. The fluorescent light flickers, casting brief shadows that dance across the walls like ghosts of his past. He whispers quietly, though no one can hear him. Words meant for his father. I'm still here, he says, voice barely above a breath. Still doing it right. The building above him feels heavy, filled with voices that never knew struggle. But here, in this small, forgotten corner, truth breathes freely. He takes a deep breath, wipes his brow, and stands. Dignity does not depend on applause. It grows in silence, in rooms where no one claps, but the soul refuses to bow. Morning light spills through the hallway windows, soft and forgiving. Eli moves quietly, emptying bins, straightening chairs, restoring order where others leave chaos. Each movement is deliberate, almost ceremonial, like honoring something greater than the job itself. His reflection trails him in the polished surfaces, reminding him of all that was lost. Every hallway holds whispers of his father's laughter, the low rumble of pride when the building first opened its doors. Back then, his father's hands shaped everything: the walls, the vision, the heart. Now, those same halls echo only with names printed on glass doors that do not remember. Eli pauses, presses his hand to the cool wall, and closes his eyes. Grief has changed its form. It no longer cries. It works. Maya watches from across the corridor as Eli replaces a trash bin. His quietness draws her in more than any speech could. She senses the weight behind his stillness, something that feels older than pain, more like history refusing to be erased. She wants to say something, but words stick like dust in her throat. Instead, she walks closer and sets a folder on the counter, pretending to organize papers. "You shouldn't let them talk to you like that," she murmurs. Eli doesn't look up. "Sometimes silence speaks louder," he replies softly. The moment hangs between them. Fragile, human, true. She wonders who he really is and why that simple answer sounds like it's been carved from experience deeper than she can imagine. That night, the building empties. The city hums outside like a restless sea of neon and noise. Eli lingers in the lobby, mop set aside, staring at the founder's nameplate again. His father's name. He remembers the stories told at the dinner table. The long nights when his father spoke of fairness and compassion as the real foundations of a business. "Never let wealth blind you," the old man would say. "Because when you can't see people, you stop building, you start taking." Eli kneels before the plaque, running a cloth gently over the engraved letters. For a moment, the air feels sacred. The hum of the fluorescent lights above fades into quiet reverence, and for the first time that day, he smiles. Small, private, true. In her small office, Maya sits at her desk long after hours, tapping her pen against a file marked Founding History. Curiosity pulls her forward. She types Raymond Carter into the company archive system. The screen flickers to life with old photos. A proud black man in a suit, smiling beside the original building blueprint. Her breath catches when she notices the resemblance. The eyes, the posture. Unmistakable. She leans closer, whispering to herself, "It can't be." Her pulse quickens as she scrolls through scanned articles. Founder's death. Ownership restructured. She closes her eyes, realizing what the world has missed. The fee. Founder's son walks these halls unseen. A secret hidden in plain sight, working with a mop instead of a crown. The next morning, Maya finds Eli in the maintenance corridor. The air between them hums with what she now knows but cannot yet say. "You don't have to stay quiet forever," she says gently. Eli glances up, eyes calm but alert, searching her face for meaning. "Some things are bigger than silence," he replies, voice low. She nods, heart pounding with the truth she carries like fragile glass. For the first time, he senses that someone finally sees him. Not the uniform, not the role, but the man. Outside, sunlight spills through the glass, cutting through the morning fog. A new day begins, but something sacred has already shifted. The balance between truth and power is starting to tilt. The morning air in Atlanta hums with quiet tension as Eli sweeps the corridor outside the executive suite. Conversations fade when he passes. People nod politely without seeing him, but deep inside a decision brews. Calm, deliberate, unstoppable. Maya's discovery has shifted something invisible but immense. Every movement feels heavier now. Each stroke of the broom weighted with history and silence. He remembers his father's words about legacy. That it isn't what you leave behind, is what still stands after others try to erase you. The air feels different today. He can sense that the past is stirring beneath the floors he cleans. In his chest, grief begins to turn into resolve. The man they mocked has begun to remember who he truly is. Maya steps into the records room, her heart pounding. The fluorescent lights buzz faintly as she opens an old filing cabinet labeled Founding Contracts. Her fingers tremble as she pulls out the dusty folder. Inside lie old papers, signatures, and company seals that tell a buried story. One of ownership, inheritance, and betrayal. The founder's name, Raymond Carter, appears again and again. Beneath it, in faded ink, is another name, Eli Carter. She covers her mouth, breath catching. It's true. Every assumption about him, his humility, his silence, now feels like a mirror reflecting the world's blindness. She presses the documents to her chest, whispering, they don't even know who walks among them. That evening, Maya waits near the back entrance where Eli finishes his shift. She steps forward as he locks up the supply room, her breath visible in the cool night air. Eli, she begins softly. I found something about your father. He freezes, eyes dark and unreadable. What do you know? He asks quietly. Her voice shakes as she tells him everything. The files, the documents, the files, the documents, the proof. For a long moment he says nothing. Then with a faint, pained smile, he nods. I knew the truth would find its way, he says, voice thick with restrained emotion, but I didn't think it would come through you. They stand in silence, not as worker and employee, but as two souls witnessing the rise of justice, long delayed. They meet again the next morning in a small cafe 2 blocks from the tower. Over steaming coffee, Maya lays out the documents between them. This proves everything, she whispers. You're the founder's son. You own part of Grayson Global by blood. Eli studies the papers in silence. His father's signature looks smaller now, as though time had tried to fade its authority. He built this place to lift people up, Eli murmurs. Now it's become a cage for them. He leans back, eyes steady, voice calm but sure. I don't want revenge, Maya. I just want to make it right. She nods slowly, realizing the quiet strength in his resolve. The same strength that once built an empire. That night, Eli returns to the building one last time before dawn. He walks through the empty halls where his father once stood, where decisions were made and dreams were born. He touches the brass railing, runs his hand across the founder's portrait, and exhales deeply. You built this with your hands, he whispers, and I'll honor it with mine. For years, the world called him invisible, a janitor, a nobody. But now, invisibility feels like power. From silence, he's been watching, learning every flaw, every crack in the system. Morning breaks over Grayson Global, but the light feels colder now. Whispers move through the offices, quiet suspicions, rumors of missing funds and failed contracts. Jonathan strides through the hall, mask of confidence still fixed, but his steps are faster, sharper, as if chased by something unseen. Eli watches from the far end of the corridor, mopping slowly, eyes thoughtful. He knows truth needs no stage. It waits for the guilty to stumble. The balance of power begins to shift, not with noise, but with stillness. The billionaire's control is slipping, thread by thread, pulled by hands he once dismissed as invisible. And beneath that silence, destiny sharpens its edge. The boardroom hums with unease. Papers shuffle, phones buzz, and Jonathan stands at the head of the long table, voice strained as he insists, the numbers are fine. Wait, but the directors exchange uneasy glances. Nothing about his tone sounds fine. Outside, Eli passes the door, hearing fragments, audit, losses, investors. He keeps walking, but a quiet satisfaction flickers in his chest. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through cracks in the ceiling. Behind those glass walls, arrogance begins to devour itself, while humility waits, patient, unhurried. Later that day, Maya slips a folded document into Eli's locker. The final proof of corruption she uncovered in the records. She doesn't stay long. Some truths need no words. When Eli opens it, his heart tightens. A file showing Jonathan's secret fund transfers, the same ones that drained the founder's legacy. For a moment, he just breathes, steady and slow. Justice has a scent now. Ink, paper, and quiet resolve. He tucks the folder under his arm, knowing the time for silence is almost over. For years, he worked beneath the world's gaze, invisible. But now, invisibility becomes his power. The storm doesn't announce itself. It gathers quietly until it owns the sky. Jonathan sits alone in his office as dusk settles across the city skyline. The once silent phone now rings without pause. Investors demand answers. The press calls non-stop. His hand trembles as he pours another drink, whiskey spilling across a stack of reports. The reflection staring back at him from the glass window doesn't look invincible anymore. The arrogance that once fueled him now burns like guilt. Outside, Eli walks the corridor with his mop, passing unnoticed, the shadow of truth moving through the empire of lies. The fall has begun, slow and irreversible, and the man at the top can feel it. The next morning, the news hits the building like thunder. The company's stock plunges. Employees huddle near screens, whispering. Jonathan storms through the lobby, shouting orders no one listens to. His voice cracks with panic, a sound the walls have never heard from him, and standing at the base of the marble staircase is Eli, steady, silent, watching the storm unfold. He feels no joy, only the gravity of truth finally rising. The powerful crumble not because of what others do to them, but because of what they build upon emptiness. The janitor lowers his mop and looks up at the golden logo. It no longer feels untouchable. The gala is a river of glittering dresses and tailored suits, champagne flutes catching the light like captured stars. Cameras flash, voices hum with self-importance, and Jonathan Pierce strides through the room as if he owns the world, unaware that the truth is closer than he thinks. Eli steps quietly through the marble halls, the documents in his hand heavy with decades of history. Every glance toward the ballroom reminds him that tonight is not about spectacle, but justice. As the music swells, questions echo in his mind. What happens when power mistakes invisibility for weakness? How long can lies stand before the light finds them? And when it does, will anyone recognize the son who walked unnoticed for years? The crowd parts unknowingly as Eli approaches the center of the room. A hush descends when Maya steps forward beside him, holding the evidence that will shatter the billionaire's empire. The lights seem brighter, the music slower, as eyes turn to him. The janitor, the quiet observer, the son of the founder. Jonathan freezes mid-step, recognition and disbelief flickering across his face. This is the moment where arrogance meets history. The world that mocked him now watches, and Eli stands tall, calm, the weight of his father's legacy flowing through him. Silence becomes louder than any voice Jonathan ever raised. A projector screen lights up with documents, photos, and signatures, proof of Jonathan's misdeeds and Eli's rightful inheritance. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Journalists raise cameras. Some whisper, others shout. Jonathan stammers, the power he wielded so effortlessly now slipping like sand through his fingers. How? How is this possible? He mutters. Eli's gaze does not waver. You forgot one thing, he says softly, loud enough for the room to hear. History remembers who built the foundation. The words hang in the air, reverberating like a verdict. The billionaire's empire, built on arrogance and blind ambition, trembles under the weight of truth. Jonathan's shoulders slump, the smirk replaced by shame. Investors murmur, whispers sharpening into pointed questions. Eli watches, calm and unwavering, feeling the balance shift at last. The building he walked, as a janitor cleaned with invisible hands, now belongs morally to him. Not for vengeance, but for restoration. He steps forward, voice steady, echoing through the room. This company was built on the vision of someone who believed in people, not power. It is time we honor that vision. The room holds its breath, knowing a reckoning has arrived. The world finally sees the man they ignored. By the end of the night, the gala feels different, transformed. Cameras flash, but now with purpose. Conversations buzz, but now with truth. Jonathan is left to reckon with a reputation built on pride, while Eli walks quietly toward the staircase, past the crowd that once overlooked him. Maya follows, her eyes filled with admiration and relief. The empire is no longer just a symbol of wealth. It is a responsibility, a chance to restore dignity, justice, and humanity. Outside, Atlanta's skyline glows against the night, mirrored in the polished marble inside. For the first time in years, Eli feels the weight of inheritance not as a burden, but as a promise fulfilled. The office is quieter now, but the energy is different. Not frantic, not fearful, but deliberate. Eli walks through the hallways, observing employees who once avoided him, now pausing to nod in recognition. Every floor he polished as a janitor now gleams under his gaze, a reflection of care and pride rather than invisibility. He remembers his father's words. A company is only as strong as the people it lifts. Meetings replace whispers. Plans replace rumors, and every step he takes is guided by legacy rather than greed. The building hums with life renewed, and Eli feels the weight of responsibility transform into a steady, unwavering heartbeat of hope. In the boardroom, Eli sits at the head of the table for the first time. Charts and reports once used to intimidate him now inform his plans. He speaks with clarity, weaving vision with compassion. Investors lean in, captivated by a strategy grounded not in exploitation but in integrity. Jonathan Pierce is absent, a reminder of how arrogance crumbles under truth. Maya passes him notes, and he nods, listening, valuing collaboration over authority. The company begins to breathe again, not as a machine for profit, but as a vessel for purpose. Legacy is no longer a memory. It is alive, pulsing in every word, every decision. He walks the floors he once cleaned, now speaking with employees face to face. He asks questions, listens, laughs quietly with them, and hears stories that no memo could capture. Every voice matters. Every concern counts. The legacy his father left is no longer just a name engraved in brass. It is carried through action, respect, and accountability. Workers who once felt invisible now find themselves seen, encouraged, and trust. Eli realizes that power is not in the title, but in the hands that build, care, and uplift. The building hums differently now, alive with dignity, and Eli smiles quietly, knowing this is the work his father dreamed of. In his father's old office, Eli arranges books, letters, and photographs, a shrine to wisdom and perseverance. He traces the spines of the volumes with care, thinking about the vision that started it all. He feels his father's presence not as pressure, but as guidance. He speaks softly to himself. I will not let you be forgotten. Outside the office, life continues. But inside this room, he carries the past forward into the future. Every decision now honors people, not power. Dignity, not greed. In this quiet room, Eli feels the full weight and beauty of legacy. Alive, unbroken, and guiding every step. By evening, the building glows with warmth and energy, lights reflecting off polished floors, laughter echoing softly in open spaces. Eli stands on a balcony overlooking the city, watching employees leave with smiles and pride. He breathes in the scent of possibility, remembering his father's lessons about service, patience, and care. Maya joins him, sharing the quiet moment, and together they look at the city's lights shimmering like hope. The empire is no longer just about wealth. It is about what it can give, lift, and restore. The janitor who was invisible now stands as a steward of legacy, bridging past and future, quietly, powerfully, with dignity. Sunlight streams through the windows of Grayson Global, golden and forgiving. Eli walks the halls with a quiet smile, watching employees greet each other with laughter and respect. The building that once echoed with whispers of humiliation now hums with life and dignity. He pauses to touch the brass nameplate bearing his father's name, a reminder of what was lost and what has been restored. Every sweep of the floor, every careful decision, every kind word has led to this moment. The past whispers in harmony with the present, and Eli feels the weight of legacy as both anchor and wings. Today, the world sees what he always knew. Dignity cannot be stolen. In a quiet meeting room, Eli speaks to young employees, sharing lessons about integrity, persistence, and respect. His words are simple, but heavy with truth. Every action counts. Every action counts. Treat this place not just as a workplace, but as a legacy in your hands. The employees listen intently, nodding, inspired. He realizes that leadership is not about fear or command, but about lifting others while staying rooted in principles that endure. Through him, the values his father held sacred now breathe, not as memory, but as living guidance for the company's future. Later, Eli walks through the hallways he once cleaned, smiling at familiar faces. He notices small gestures. A janitor laughing with a colleague, a secretary sharing news with a coworker, and realizes that dignity spreads quietly, subtly, but powerfully. His father's voice echoes in his mind. A life of respect is the most visible thing you can leave behind. Eli nods silently, knowing that this is the reward no amount of wealth or applause could ever match. The world once blind to him now mirrors back the humanity he has always embodied. At dusk, Eli stands on the rooftop terrace of Grayson Global, overlooking Atlanta's skyline. The city pulses with life. Lights, traffic, and movement, and he feels the connection between the world above and the building below. Maya joins him carrying a cup of coffee. They share a quiet smile, no words needed. The journey from mockery to revelation, from silence to recognition, has forged something unbreakable. Eli looks at the skyline, feeling both the weight of the past and the promise of the future. The light of dignity does not fade, it spreads, quietly transforming every space it touches. Years later, Eli watches young employees laugh in the same halls he once swept alone. The company hums with respect, purpose, and integrity. He sees himself in their determination, their quiet pride, and he knows that his father's vision has been fully realized. Not through money, but through dignity, fairness, and resilience. Maya stands beside him, proud and steadfast. The world that once mocked him now carries the spirit of his father and his own strength. Legacy is alive, thriving, and unstoppable. In the end, dignity shines brighter than any empire, and Eli's journey has ensured it will never be forgotten.